If the pyramids were built for eternity, the tomb walls were built for memory. Step inside an Egyptian tomb and something unexpected happens. The world does not grow darker, it grows brighter. You see musicians playing harps and flutes, dancers mid-step, families feasting, hunters stalking birds through papyrus marshes, children at play, cats leaping, wine poured, bread stacked, laughter implied. This is not a world of fear, it's a world of life preserved. Why would scenes of banquets and fishing trips belong in a place of death? To the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't decoration, it was insurance. To be named was to continue existing. Egyptian tomb art was not made primarily to be admired, it was meant to work. To paint bread was to provide bread. To show a boat was to grant transportation. To carve servants was to ensure labor. The image became the thing. This was not symbolic in the modern sense, it was functional. A painted harvest was an eternal harvest. A painted feast was a meal that never ended. The tomb was a house stocked for forever. Few tombs capture this vision better than the paintings from the tomb of Nebamun, a New Kingdom official of modest rank. Nebamun is not shown ruling or conquering. He is shown enjoying life. In one famous scene, he hunts birds in the marshes, standing on a papyrus skiff with his family beside him. His wife is elegant. His daughter plucks lotus blossoms. A cat leaps mid-air, frozen in perfect motion. It's joyful, sensual, alive. And this is the moment where we must pause. It's tempting to read these scenes as memories, moments frozen from Nebamun's life. But despite their extraordinary powers of observation of animals, plants, movement, and the natural world, Egyptian art does not record what the artist saw. It records what should be. These paintings are not observations, they are instructions. The hunt must succeed, the banquet must continue, music must never stop. What is shown is not the past, it's the future, secured forever. To show a perfect world was to guarantee one. Egyptian artists were not inventing images, they were executing a sacred system, trained to reproduce forms that had already proven eternal. Creativity did not mean change, at least not in the modern sense. Egyptian artists were not rewarded for originality or personal invention. They were rewarded for correctness. Innovation was not the goal, precision was. By our standards today, Egyptian art can appear conservative and formulaic, but its strength lies not in innovation, it lies in stillness. In a world governed by Ma'at, calm was not emptiness, it was holiness. In Egypt, tradition was not a limitation, it was protection. The Egyptians did not imagine the afterlife as an escape from the world, they imagined it as its perfection. The field of reeds was Egypt without loss. The Nile always flooded, the crops always grew, families were reunited, and work had purpose, not exhaustion. Death was not a break from life, it was continuity. This love of life shaped an entire economy. During the New Kingdom, as much as 1/5 of the workforce in some communities was employed in what we might call the death industry. Tomb builders, painters, sculptors, embalmers, priests, scribes, and ritual specialists. Not because Egyptians were morbid, but because eternity required planning. Preparing for death was not about dying well, it was about living again. For the Egyptians, time did not move forward, it returned. Life, death, and rebirth were not an ending, but a cycle. The sun rose, the river flooded, crops grew, and the world renewed itself again and again. Eternity was not infinite time. It was perfect repetition. But Egyptian tombs do not speak with a single voice. Alongside confidence and careful preparation, we also hear doubt. Nearly 1,700 years before the Roman poet Horace could write Carpe diem, quam minimum credula postero, seize the day, trusting as little as possible in tomorrow. Egyptians were already giving form to the same uneasy truth. One of the most remarkable texts in Egyptian culture is the Song of the Harper, a poem preserved on tomb walls and papyri and associated with music performed at banquets and funerary gatherings. One version appears in the Middle Kingdom tomb of King Intef, accompanied by the image of a blind harpist, a figure who sings not of certainty, but of life's brevity. The Song of the Harper offers no promises of what comes next. Instead of answers, the harper offers only this: be of good cheer, forgetfulness is advantageous to you. Follow your heart's desire all your life. Anoint your head with myrrh, clothe yourself in fine linen. Do things while you are here on earth. Do not grieve until the day of lamentation overtakes you. Enjoy life and do not grow weary of it. No one takes his possessions out of this life, and no one who has departed returns. It's honesty. In their world, faith and doubt live side by side. Sometimes the dead were even written to. Archaeologists have found letters addressed to deceased family members, written on bowls, jar stands, linen, and papyrus, pleading for help, protection, or relief from suffering. A widow asks her husband to stop troubling her dreams. A son begs his father to intervene in a legal dispute. A woman promises offerings if her illness is cured. These are not prayers to distant gods. They are conversations with loved ones. The dead were not gone. They were nearby, listening. The boundary between the living and the dead was thin, a doorway, not a wall. And here is where Egypt does something extraordinary. The Egyptians are the first people in human history to leave us a sustained record of how they felt. Not just what they built, not just what they believed, but what they feared, loved, doubted, and hoped. Love poems speak of desire. Complaints grumble about lazy coworkers. Jokes leave quick traces of humor. Songs question eternity itself. For the first time, the ancient world sounds human. And then it fell silent. As temples closed and priesthoods disappeared, the knowledge of how to read hieroglyphs was lost. For over 1,000 years, Egypt's walls could still be seen, but they could no longer be read. The images remained, precise and beautiful, but their voices were gone. Until 1799. Near the town of Rosetta, a broken slab of stone was uncovered, bearing the same text written 3 times in hieroglyphs, in Demotic Egyptian, and in Greek. Because Greek could still be read, scholars finally had a key. In 1822, hieroglyphic writing could be read again. What the Rosetta Stone says is not very interesting. It's a routine decree praising a king and granting temple privileges. For the first time in over a millennium, Egypt could be read. In Egypt, to record something was to help make it endure. And once it could be read, it became clear that temples and tombs were only part of the story. Writing had followed people into their daily lives. It recorded errands and arguments, debts and apologies, the ordinary texture of being human. Much of it survived in the least expected place. At the ancient city of Oxyrhynchus, archaeologists excavated vast garbage dumps, preserved by desert sand. Many of these texts survived not because they were treasured, but because they were discarded. From these dumps came hundreds of thousands of papyri, mostly in Greek and some in Egyptian scripts. Love letters, shopping lists, school exercises, jokes, tax complaints, forgotten poems. Some preserve the uneven handwriting of children learning to write. People arguing, people apologizing, people worrying about rent, not the voices of kings, but of ordinary life. If tombs show us how Egyptians hoped to live forever, Oxyrhynchus shows how they lived each day. Egypt's monuments give form to belief. Its tombs are dreams made visible. Its trash is a chorus of human voices. Together they tell us something no earlier civilization had left behind, a record of the human heart. They painted life so it would never end. They prepared for death because they loved living too much to let it go. And in doing so, they ensured that even after their language fell silent, their voices would find their way back to us.